Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. When I learned that the theme to this morning, where are you from, it struck me because this is the unavoidable question that comes a lot. And specifically, in the last 7 years that I have lived in the United States. And honestly, I have no idea how to answer this question. It came up a few times when I was hiking up in Maine or getting my coffee at the local gas station. And people say, oh, you have an accent, where are you from? And I've also mingled around with Americans at dinner table who meet the new person. And you ask the question, where are you from? And they say, Pennsylvania. And then you talk about towns in Pennsylvania, or someone is from Texas, or someone is from Massachusetts. So Americans find comfort in this question, whereas immigrants feel a little bit frustrated with this question because there's always the long answer. For example, I have traveled through 3 countries. The United States is a 3rd country. I was born and grew up in Somalia, which is up in East Africa, or in other words, in the Horn of Africa. And this is the question of where are you from never comes up. Never. Because we are a homogeneous society in Somalia, speak the same language, own the same culture, believe in the same faith. So where are you from is not a question. And that only comes up when someone like a Somali crosses a border. Actually, I've lived in Kenya at the refugee camp for about 6 years. And I've lived with my community. And the same question, where are you from, is never answered because the Kenyans have got to know who we are. So we have always been either two, a Somali or a refugee. But coming to the United States, and particularly in Maine, this was unavoidable. And I wasn't sure if people were comfortable with my long answer, which is, well, I was born there and, spent a few times in Kenya, so, now that's where I am from. However, a year ago, things have actually changed completely. I became a U.S. citizen, took the oath of citizenship, became naturalized, in other words. I raised my right hand and took the oath of that so many of you have not really taken the oath to citizenship. You were born into American, and you basically say wherever you're from based on where you went to college and where you're working, where you had family. Well, now that I became a United States citizen in Portland, Maine, I have slightly changed my answer. So when someone says, where are you from? I say Maine. And then again, I sometimes sense in the face of others who ask the question, if they are comfortable with what I'm saying, or if they actually have more questions. Sometimes they bend their head towards me and expecting more explanation. Number one, I'm a person of color, and definitely doesn't look like a Mainer. Or in other words, there's many who would like to define as the new Mainers. So does the new Mainer say I am a Mainer? Or can you say I am from Maine? Well, I decided to let everything else behind me and stick with it. Say, I am from Maine. Even though I'm still in the process of learning, I'm just getting into the winter sports. I just started making apple pie. Yes, I got into the fun things that the Mainers do, apple picking, strawberry picking, things that you can do in the fall and drive around and watch the beautiful colors. What makes you a Maine? And this is something I've asked myself. If I wanted to say I'm from here, I need to put a few things for myself, right? And I'm not saying all of you are from Maine, but maybe some of you grew up in Massachusetts, maybe some of you grew up somewhere else in the United States, but when someone asks you, you would still say that you are from Florida or New York. I do not have that background. I came from 12,000 miles from here. But again, I'm the only member of my family Mom, dad, siblings are back in Somalia, right? And what's so striking here is, and this is how America was built. Generations have come here and had their kids, and they became, or in other words, integrated into America. And I see that happening right now. And then it becomes this deep sense of fear and frustration, right? My mom is still alive, and I speak fluent Somali, speak fluent Arabic, and I have communication with them, and it's the era of technology. But you have to let go a few things. You have to compromise a few things. And that is what's happening as we wake up, basically as I wake up every day in Yarmouth, Maine, which is my town, which is where I live. Well, I understand many Yarmouthians, when they see me driving around or running around in town, or picking up a book from the local bookstore down here on Main Street, they always assume that I'm from Lewiston or Portland. There's not that much diversity in Yarmouth. And I actually remember someone running into me at the park here in Yarmouth and saying, "Are you one of the asylum seekers who are based right across where we are right now in this building?" And I said, "No, I'm not. But I live in Yarmouth." So, it's never easy to answer that question. Never. Maybe my kids in the future will have a better answer. But I am now, as I say, walk on the same trail as your ancestors did, maybe. Maybe some of you who own an immigrant background, who come from a French-speaking community, a Portuguese-speaking community, a Spanish-speaking community, how hard it was. And that's how difficult it is. But no matter what they say, I'm very proud to be here. I'm very lucky to be here and have a lovely community, a peaceful town, and that I can create friendships despite age or gender or even skin color. And this is one of the things that I love, truly love, about the country where I live today. And that is the type of America the world wants to see. My mother follows the news through the radio and television, and she has a sense of feeling that what's happening in America is terrifying, that you could be gunned down if you're a black person down the street. The information that people received in the last 4 or 5 years outside of this country is nothing but despair. The beautiful image of this country has shrunk in the face of humanity, in the face of the most vulnerable and refugees and immigrants. And with that, I found myself serving in between these two worlds. That I come from this background and follow the news, and I belong to a community of others. Others, I mean those who don't speak English. And that I also have one foot in this world. And I find myself finding the gaps that are created by our politicians. And maybe some members of our community who are careless and are pursuing their own interests. But what motivates me more is the love and friendship that you give me. That you do not see me as the other, as a new Mainer, but that you accept the fact that I'm different, not based on the similarities that I have with you. Now remember, a few minutes ago, I mentioned baking apple pie. It's one of the most frustrating things, because I realized Americans don't understand what we bake back home or what we eat back home. They like to hear the story, but it's not practical. Now, I can't be stuck in that world, so I need to get myself out there. Let me learn how to bake a pie and maybe add a little bit more flavor from where I come from and bring up something more interesting and more exciting. And that's a journey that I'm looking forward to, bringing so much into this community and building it from there. In other words, building all together. Thank you so very much for having me this morning. I appreciate it.